So good morning everyone, welcome to Palace Penguins United Big Book Study. This week Mags has come along to share on the book. Over to you, Mags.
Thank you so much, Laws, for your service. Happy Saturday everybody, and thank you to everybody else in the background that does service at this meeting, that turns up every week to do the readings and co-hosts and times and everything. You've got a great little force of people here that know what it is to show up and say yes to service every day. So thank you all for being here, and welcome anybody that's new or returning. This is the Powerless Penguins book study every Saturday, and we're right into page 48. Amazing already that we're here. I was speaking to somebody during the week and they said to me, oh God, you're already on to week 20, or they were listening to week 20, and they're like, gosh, that's a lot of time. And I'm thinking, oh God, it only feels like yesterday that we started. Might not feel like that for you guys that have been listening to my stuff over the last lot of weeks, but it is certainly, time flies when you're having fun, as they say here. So yeah, we're going to just get stuck right in. There's a couple of things that I don't know why they've been put into my mind once I've been listening to the readings, and that have jumped in, and they might get weaved in somewhere along the way. But I love every week that on this meeting, before we go into the book study, that Laws asks those that have a year or more sobriety to raise their hands. And each week it seems that the raised hands for a year or more sobriety gets more and more and more and more, which is an amazing thing. But the thing that's been put into my mind this morning is, and I don't know who this is for, you may have over a year sobriety, but are you doing what you should be doing? It's a really simple question. Are you doing what you should be doing? If you've got an over a year sobriety, where are you with your daily reprieve? Where are you with your step 10, 11 and 12? Have you completed all of your amends? Are you being of service? Do you have a service position? Are you intensively working one alcoholic with another, one addict with another? So great that we've all got raised hands, that we've got a year sobriety. But is the unmanageability of your life still in some way affecting you? I don't know. I'm just asking the question, something to percolate. Nobody needs to give the answer on it. I did the steps in a group with somebody, and he always used to ask me questions, and he always used to say, but Mags, just let that percolate. It's not to answer the question. And he was right. I didn't know what he meant at the time. It was for me to sit and consider what he was asking me. He wasn't going to give me the answers, because he knew that I had to drop into the awareness of the presence that is the consciousness of the God of my own understanding, for me to tap into that inner resource and for the answers to come. He was never going to give me the answers. And that's what I've grown to love about this practice that we have. So anyway, as I say, I don't know who needed to hear that. Maybe nobody. Maybe it was me. And if it was me, good. Good. Also, I'll come on to that a little bit in a minute. I'll get stuck into the reading first. So we're on page 48. We're starting with the reader. I love the way that the writers of the book know us so well. They know the type of people that they're dealing with. So they simply say here, the reader may still ask why he should believe in a power greater than himself. We've done up to 48 pages in the big book already. We've covered the front cover page. We've understood the 36 spiritual principles. We've understood that first promise in the book, that this is the story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. We've understood the information in the preface. We're reading the personal stories at the back of the book. Did we think like that? Did we drink like that? Did we feel like that? Is this program going to work for me too? We've gone through all of the forewords. We've done the contents page. We've done the doctor's opinion, where we understand the allergy and how lifting up the first drink is the issue here, that we get that sense of ease and comfort. It was only the sense, it was never real, of ease and comfort when we pick up that first drink, when we pick up that first substance. That's where we get the ease and comfort from. But that's the problem. We pick up once, it sets off the phenomenon of craving. We have an allergy, a physical allergy. We then move into Bill's story, the personal story, where we understand whether we drank like him, thought like him, felt like him. We're reading that story as a personal story, as is instructed from the last paragraph in the preface. And then we continue into there is a solution, where they talk about there is a solution. And they talk to us about the spiritual toolkit that is laid at our feet. They talk to us about the fact that we've got no power, control, or choice over what this substance is that we're affected by. And it's all three. I have no control. I have no power. My willpower will not help me. And I have no choice. So that story, that chapter continues on into more about alcoholism. I remember when we got into more about alcoholism, I told you the story about the fact that my sponsor, when he turned the page into page 30, and he said, right, okay, you need to know more about alcoholism. I wanted to look at him and actually say, really? There's more to learn? Because there was. By this stage, when we get to page 48, we already know the 4 stories and more about alcoholism. The guy who drank after 25 years and was dead within 4. We know about Jim, I call him the milkman, who mixed the whiskey with milk. That premeditation, that unreasonable idea that he could just pick up one drink. We learned about the jaywalker over and over and over and over and over again. The insanity of picking up the first drink. And then the 4th story, Fred, he was totally busted. He couldn't believe he was an alcoholic. He could not admit, he could not let the idea in, and he could not accept the spiritual help until he was beat into that state of reasonableness and had no other option than to accept the spiritual help. We know all of this stuff up to this point. Then, boom, we get into we agnostics. Chapter 4, they tell us that we can't avoid, we can't evade, we can't ignore the God thing anymore. They tell us that we're doomed to an alcoholic death unless we accept the spiritual help. They continue to give us more and more and more reasons why we should come to believe that this power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. Always remember that the second step in the short form that you hear read out in the rooms all of the time as part of chapter 5, how it works. Step 2 in the short form says, came to believe that this power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. Of course, they're talking about it in the past tense because this was written 90 years ago, but I, from my experience, know that I came to believe. It doesn't say anywhere you must believe before you start the steps. That's not what it tells you. What you have to do is keep on showing up with your sponsor and turning the pages. Let the book do the work. Like it says on page 45, lack of power is your dilemma. Lack of power is my dilemma. Well, where am I to find the power? Well, that's exactly the purpose of this book. So if you're sitting here in this room and you haven't got a book and you haven't got a sponsor, what are you doing here? Yes, of course, in the readings you will hear, if you've got a desire to stop using and drinking, you are welcome here. Absolutely. But you are welcome here, but you must do the work. Somebody said to me during the week there, and a lot of us hear this all the time, Mags, I want what you have. Okay. And I said it last week. Well, then you've got to do what we do. You've got to do what we do. And the reason why I'm covering all of that is you might be coming to this book study and many other book studies and you're on page 48 and you're studying the book and it's all great and you're understanding the page numbers and you're understanding the definitions and you're understanding the golden thread that runs through every single page right up to 164. But you might be looking at this and still be that person who is asking why. Just that line we've read, why I should believe in a power greater than himself. Knowing what you know up to page 48, you may still be asking why. Good. Set aside every single thing you think you know about this program, about God, about the 12 steps, about everything that you think is going to keep you sober so that you may have a new experience with God. That you may be shown the truth. Because they then go on to say, we think there are good reasons. Let us have a look at some of them. This chapter is a treasure trove of gems. Precious, precious gems. It's the gift that keeps on giving, this chapter. And when I'm with my sponsor, he would turn the page and here's another reason why you should come to believe. Here's another reason why, and another reason why, and another reason why. It never stops trying to convince us as to why this power is so important in our lives. And I'm not here to convince you. Many people think it's the sponsor's job to be able to convince you, and I'm not suggesting that I'm anybody's sponsor on this screen. Of course, there's a couple of my sponsees on here, but this book study is not sponsorship. It's just another avenue for people to learn and tap into the knowledge, I suppose. But yeah, it's not my job as a sponsor to convince anybody that they're alcoholic addict, and it's not my job to convince anybody that they have to believe in this God thing. It's my job just to show up and give them the information. The individual needs to be convinced themselves. The individual, convinced meaning be moved by the evidence. The individual needs to be moved by the evidence of doing this themselves. They need to be moved by the evidence in the book, in reading it and understanding it like their sponsor is given to them. So let us share some of those reasons. And they totally know what we're like. So the practical individual of today is a stickler for facts and results. Aren't we all? Aren't we all? A stickler for facts and results. Prove it. Prove it to me. Show me exactly the evidence that tells me that blah. Whatever the facts are. Prove it to me. Because you know why I need proof? Because the person that's telling me this information, I'm more intelligent than them. So they're never going to be able to prove the facts and results to me because I'll always be able to come back with something else. Show me exactly what you're talking about. Because I don't believe you. Because I have a judgment about you and an opinion on you. You're not the person that you think you are. I had a guy in my home group who every week would say, and there was a Monday, our meeting is only ever based in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We don't do anything else other than study the book. It sounds probably really weird and corny, but it's not, because that's what we're supposed to do. Anyway, there was a guy that came to my home group, a very dear friend of mine, and we had a physical meeting on a Monday and a Thursday, and we would get to a part of the book and he'd read it. You know, say he was doing the doctor's opinion, he'd read a paragraph and he'd say, oh, I love this part of the book. And I used to be sitting beside him in the early days, rolling my eyes, tutting and thinking, oh my God, what an idiot. Then on a Thursday, he would come back and we'd be in the nighttime inventory in step 11. Oh, I love this part of the book, he'd say, and I'd be like, oh my God, what an idiot. How could he love the part of the book on Monday and then love the other part of the book on the Thursday? But now I understand what he means. Because every single part of this book is so important. But what I wanted to do was to say to him, prove to me why you like this. Prove to me why that part on Monday is important. Prove to me why this part on Thursday is important. I couldn't set aside my own prejudice and my judgment. But here's the thing. Nevertheless, the 20th century readily accepts theories of all kinds, provided they are firmly grounded in fact. We're now in the 21st century, and it's got even worse. The advancement of technology, the advancement of science, the advancement of people's mind. Is advancement even a word? I don't know. I don't really care, but that's what's being put into my mind now. The forward thinking of everything that is developing in this world. Really and truly, we accept all sorts of ideas and theories just because somebody tells us. You know? All of these mega rich people that are sending rockets into space. sending a group of celebrities up there for 4 minutes. We believe they went to space. The pictures on the news told us so. We've accepted it because we've seen it on the news. Why wouldn't I believe that? Yet, the conspiracy theories come in and say something different. The same applies to the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Oh, you're telling me that you did X, Y, and Z and you got sober. But I've got another theory. Really? Because in the reading before we started, part of it, one of the lines is, it's already been proven that the 12-step program works. It's already been proven that the 12-step program works. It's been going from the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous for 90 years. And there's demonstrations on this screen. I mean, it doesn't matter the number. There's a fair few people on here this morning. There's a fair few people on here every Saturday morning. And they are demonstrations of the fact that this 12-step program works. But I had the audacity to come into your room and question what you were doing, and question your version of God, and question what you believed. Yet all the while, there was a 12-step recovery program. And I was bearing witness to its results. But because I thought I knew better, I prolonged my own agony because I thought I knew. Especially when it came to the God thing. So here's some of these theories. They're going to go through a number of them, and I love them because they're so simple you could miss them. So we have numerous theories, for example, about electricity. It's a really simple example. Everybody believes them without a murmur of doubt. Why this ready acceptance? Simply because it is impossible to explain what we see, feel, direct, and use without a reasonable assumption as a starting point. Think about that. A reasonable assumption as a starting point. We know from the previous page, when we covered that last week, they asked the question which they don't really answer. Do you now believe, or am I even willing to believe that there is a power greater than myself? And it doesn't matter whether he does believe or is willing to believe, they emphatically assure us that we're on our way. Because all we need is willingness at this point. We're working from a reasonable assumption that there's something greater than us. And they're going to try to help us understand that with our willingness, our honesty about our own prejudice, our own doubt, and an open mind. Those 3 essential requirements that they talk about in the spiritual experience at the back of the book, those 3 words are specifically on page 568. Because the thing that I was reminded of, somebody on this meeting, when they shared back a couple of weeks ago, is that I had contempt prior to investigation. Belligerent intolerance of everybody around me. So get rid of all of that stuff. All I have to have is the essential, indispensable requirements of the willingness, the honesty with myself, and the open-mindedness. It's not whether you're being honest with me. That's none of my business. It's whether I'm being honest with myself about my own doubt and prejudice when it comes to this. So the reasonable assumption that there is something bigger than us is where we are. Because here's the thing about electricity. You'll have heard loads of people talk about this, I'm sure, at this point in the book. But I come down this morning and there's a light above my head. Okay? The switch for the light is 5 feet away from me. But I have the reasonable assumption that when I hit that switch 5 feet away, the light above my head is going to come on. It's a reasonable assumption. It's really simple. I can't explain it. I can see it. I know how to use it. That's the reasonable assumption. I couldn't give 2 flying shakes as to high this switch goes up the wall and down the wee slanted ceiling and into the electric cable and is swinging above my head. I don't care how it gets here. I don't need to know. All I need is to turn the switch on and the light to come on so I can see you people. And then the other reasonable assumption that I work from is, if that light bulb blows above my head, all I simply do is take the light bulb out and replace it with something else. Because I'm working on the basis of a reasonable assumption that I know that's what happens. I rectify the problem. The light will come back on again. Now, somebody like me, who's a little bit dim most of the time, excuse the pun, if something like that happens and the bulb then doesn't work when I change it, the first person I call is my daddy. Daddy, what do I do? Yes, I do call my daddy daddy. I know I'm 50 years of age, but he is still my daddy. And that's how we describe our fathers in Ireland. Doesn't matter what age we are. Anyway, people laugh at me when I call my dad daddy. Anyway, that's an aside and everything. But, you know, if something goes wrong, I call daddy and he's like, okay, well then you probably need an electrician. All right, okay. So I get an electrician if there's a real problem with that light. I work on the reasonable assumptions that something's going to happen. I work on reasonable assumptions that something's you're going to change to rectify the problem. That's all you need to have at this point in your relationship with this power greater than yourself. The willingness to start with this reasonable assumption, this conception, this idea. It doesn't have to be fully formed and formulated. That's not what it's saying. So I turn on the light, I assume it comes on, and there you go. Boom. Bob's your uncle. Science, everything. Amazing. And then they go on, because if you're not convinced by that assumption, here's the thing. Everybody nowadays believes in scores of assumptions for which there is good evidence, but no perfect visual proof. And does not science demonstrate that visual proof is the weakest proof? It is being constantly revealed as mankind studies the material world that outward appearances are not the inward reality. So the visual proof is the weakest proof. I turn on that light and there's the visual proof that there's something going on with electricity. All of these little waves or whatever they are. But the visual proof is the light. It's the weakest proof that something else is going on. From the switch, up the wall, across the slanted ceiling, and into the wire. Do you know what I mean? What is all of that? That's the weakest proof for me. I just know that something's going to happen when I flick the switch. And I am the weakest proof to you. If you're sitting in this room, dying of addiction, thinking that coming to meetings is going to be enough for you, and I'm sitting here telling you that this is going to work, seeing me telling you this, seeing me on the screen, is the weakest proof. Visual, we're all sitting here this morning, but you might still be sitting there going, this isn't true. How can this be possible? Because every single one of these people on the screen look completely different. Every single one of these people on the screen tell a different story about how they got in and how they got recovered. The visual proof of what you see of me is the weakest proof as to what I've done to get to where I am. So the point being, you can look at this screen all you want. You can listen to the recordings all you want. You can come to the meetings all you want and get to know people and all of that. But the visual proof actually is the weakest proof, because what you have to have is the assumption that it could work for you too. You've got to do this stuff to be able to be convinced, to get to the point that it'll work for you too. It's something to think about. something to percolate, something to filter. I don't know whether this makes any sense or not. But when I sit and look at the screen at all of the people that I know here, yeah, some people are sitting here in their dressing gown and pajamas, and some people are sitting here in their fitness gear, and some people are sitting here in hoodies. Some people have their screens off. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what it is. But each person on here is coming for a reason. And I have to make the perfect assumption that everybody is here to become recovered. I have to make the perfect assumption that everybody wants to carry the message of the 12-step program of recovery and to help others get sober. And I have to make the perfect assumption that everybody here wants to find the power that is greater than themselves. That's the assumption that I work from. It's none of my business whether any of that's true or not. I just have to do what I do. And you've just got to do what you do, which is to follow the clear-cut directions and do this like the desperation of a drowning man. And as time goes on and as science discovers more and there's more facts and figures, and then all of a sudden this AI thing is coming in and people are using that to find out information and prove to me, give me the answers. That's the material world. That's the third dimension of existence. Where we're brought to, like it tells us in the spiritual toolkit, is the fourth dimension of existence. We're rocketed to the fourth dimension of existence, where there is no space, there is no time, there is no physical. I can't touch it. I can't feel it. There's not a thing that I can hold on to in this fourth dimension of existence. Visual proof is the weakest proof. They go on to give this other example, and I love it. The prosaic steel girder is a mass of electrons whirling around each other at incredible speed. Of course it is. Of course it is. Do I care? No, I don't. These tiny bodies are governed by precise laws. And these laws hold true throughout the material world. Really? Yeah. Why? Because science tells us so. We have no reason to doubt it. The electrons, the protons, the neutrons, I don't even know what they are. But when my science teacher taught me this for my GCSEs, I believed them. And I wrote the answers down in the test paper. These precise laws. There's a steel girder holding up this little slanty roof in this kitchen. It's just doing its job as far as I'm concerned. I couldn't be bothered whether the electrons are whirling around at incredible speed. I don't gotta work it out. Those electrons are the same thing that make this coffee cup, that make this telephone, that make this pen. These electrons are all the same thing that do a multitude of everything. Do I care? No, because I just want the coffee cup to hold my coffee. I just want the phone to be able to use the phone. I just want the pen because I need to write things down. And I need the steel girder in the roof because I need it to hold the roof up. Do I need to know how it all works and how it all forms? No, I do not. Do I need to understand how this God thing all works and how it's formulated and where it comes from and who has their God, who has my God? Is their God better than my God? Do I need to know that? No, I don't. Am I here to force upon you the God of my understanding? Absolutely not. Am I here to talk in meetings about what my practice is with the God of my understanding? No. Am I here to comment on my sponsees and the God that they're connected to because it's not the same God as mine? No, that is not my job. I have no reason to doubt anybody's God of their own understanding, nor have you. And although science tells us all of this stuff in the physical realm, remember this, They're talking about the physical realm. The physical realm and our thinking with regards to that is not the same as this fourth dimension of existence. It's not the same. So here's the example. The prosaic steel girder holds up my kitchen, several of them probably. You would imagine that it's just static. You would imagine that it's just there. You would imagine that it's just fixed. You make the reasonable assumption that it's just there and it's steady. Visual proof is the weakest proof. But the reality of it is, with those electrons whirling around at incredible speed, that formed steel girder in science also is expanding and contracting. It contracts when it's cold. Say steel girder is not formed totally and utterly. The same applies with changes and adapts. And the changelessness of God is the fact that it's always there. The God of my understanding is always there. And it teaches us as we go through this chapter. It's limitless, never ending, changeless. Yet in this physical world, we think that things stay the same all the time. Yet underneath the material world, there's so much more. We agnostics can be quite a difficult chapter to get your head around, especially when you're reading it by yourself. But this is why you need a sponsor to bring you through these examples. So think about that steel girder. It's always contracting, expanding, contracting, expanding. The God of my understanding is always expanding, expanding, contracting a little bit when I walk away, maybe. Although it never changes, it's me that draws away. It's my self-reliance that takes me somewhere else. The ebb and the flow of life, it's ever changing. The spiritual world that we live in, this fourth dimension, the important thing here is that we're not talking about the material world. We're all sitting here in this chapter being brought to a place of agnosticism, thinking about the God of your own understanding now and your judgment, your prejudice, your doubt about what you believe this power can and will do for you. If you were to sit here and ask yourself this question right now, what is it that you're holding on to that you don't believe God could sort for you? What is it? Because that's doubt. That's prejudice. That is you holding on to your old ideas and your fixed ideas. That is you believing that you know better than God. I suffer from that agnostic temperament all the time. And they go on to say, we have no reason to doubt this scientific world, but when, however, the perfectly logical assumption is suggested that underneath the material world and life as we see it, there is an all-powerful, capitalized, another word for God, all-powerful, not just a little bit, not just here and there powerful, all-powerful. I love this next word, capitalized, or another word for God, guiding. Another word for God, creative intelligence. You're asking yourself, what do these words all mean to you? What do they mean to you? These spiritual terms, what do they mean to you? So underneath the material world and life as we see it, there is an all-powerful, guiding, creative intelligence right there, our perverse streaks comes to the surface and we laboriously set out to convince ourselves it isn't so. It's already been proven that the 12-step program of recovery works. But I know it's okay. I'm going to laboriously sit here and convince myself it isn't so. These guys are telling me that this God of their own understanding works. But no, I'm just going to sit and laboriously convince myself it isn't so. We can read wordy books and indulge in windy arguments thinking we believe this universe needs no God to explain it. Really? Were our contentions true, it would follow that life originated out of nothing, means nothing, and proceeds nowhere. Like, really? Really? We're all just sitting here for the fun of it? We're all just here because we rule the world? It doesn't make any sense. How can it be that we're sitting here, addicts, alcoholics, and haven't picked up one drink or haven't used? How can it be? Because it isn't of you. It isn't of you. It's a miracle of healing, like it says at the end of this chapter, a miracle of healing. That if you be an addict or an addict or an alcoholic, and you've been away from that substance for a period of time, you've needed God's help. You might not be convinced about that, and then you keep going back out. Well, then you keep on needing more convincing of that. It's a very strange thing to sit here, and actually this chapter is making me feel really reflective of where I was when I first came into the rooms. When I logged on to the meeting here, somebody on the screen has a screensaver, and it's 3 little Lego people on their screen. You know that the little building blocks thing, Lego. 3 little Lego people on their screen. And it reminded me back in the day, I used to tell the story when I was in rehab. There was a nun there, you called her Sister Mary Happy Feet. And there was one day that I was really struggling with this whole thing of my life and what was going to happen to me if I didn't have my addiction, and who was I going to be, and who was I going to be connected with, and losing my family and losing my friends and all of that. And Sister Mary Happy Feet just came over to me, and she just, put her finger and thumb together, and she said to me, go small. Go small. And then she took her the finger and thumb, this little small person, and all I thought when she did that was this little Lego person, and she brought it right down into my tummy, and she said, just go small. I didn't realize, and even this morning whilst I was making a cup of tea before I came on here, dawned on me, I didn't realize how huge my ego was when I sat in these rooms. I did not realize how much I needed to be humbled to have this full experience. I didn't realize how much my knowledge that I thought I had of life was going to kill me. I did not realize how much damage I was doing to myself because I sat in these rooms and judged you and gave an opinion on you, and all yous were doing was pointing me towards the solution that would have solved all my problems. It's not for anybody in this room to question what anybody else is doing. You've got to look at yourself. And I am saying this because I had to look at myself, and I could not, under any circumstances, in this third dimension of existence, in this material and physical world, I could not go small. I did not have the power even to do that I didn't know what it meant. My knowledge, my brain, my intelligence, and every single person on here, every single person listening to this is an intelligent human being because God gave us brains to use. And it tells us that later on in the book, but we grow where we're planted right now. The reality of it is, in we agnostics, there is nothing to work out. Somebody said it on here a couple of weeks ago. We agnostics tells us what God isn't. And it isn't anything that you think it is. It's bringing us to a place where we're setting aside every single thing we think we know to get this new experience. God isn't religion. Yes, we bring it alive in those organized religions. It's a part of some people's lives. But, religion can become the politics of how we do God. That's not what we're involved in. When we get into organized religion, it becomes about rules and regulations. We do it this way. They do it that way. We don't agree with the way that they do it. Their rules aren't right. Their laws aren't right. They're breaking our laws. We're not breaking their laws. It becomes a whole deal of yuckiness when we start to get into that debate and discussion, because that's not what we're here for in the rooms. That's not what we're here for in the fellowship. What we're here to understand is tapping into that unsuspected inner resource that is all-powerful guiding. It is a creative intelligence, a spirit of the universe, a realm of the realm of the spirit. It is Mother Nature. It is all of those things. And I'm using all of these words because these are the words that are in the book. It goes on to say, instead of regarding ourselves as intelligent agents, I am a special agent. I am a special agent and I work for God. There you go. Now, in the beginning, obviously, I wanted a badge and a cap and a set of epaulets so that everybody knew that I was a special agent of God. Visual proof was the weakest proof. But I work for God. I'm a very special agent and so are you. And what my job is to be a spearhead and move forward. Think of a spear and the head of a spear, that arrow, boom, you throw it, a spearhead of God's ever advancing creation. That's what I am. I have come to believe that I 100% am an intelligent agent and I am at the helm with everybody else that's doing this work, spearheading of God's ever advancing creation. Look at that word, it's capitalized. Creation, another word for God. We are creating recovery. We are creating life without addiction. We are creating freedom. We are creating love. We are creating, removing the blocks from people's awareness that blocks them from God's presence. We are advancing life. We are advancing life in mind, body, spirit, soul, whatever you want to call it. We are advancing creation. We are carrying this message, the message of Alcoholics Anonymous, to be able to keep these fellowships alive for the people that don't even need it, for the children that aren't even born, who don't even know they're going to be addicts or alcoholics. We are advancing this recovery program to keep it safe and protected for the people that don't even need it yet. We're the spearhead of God's creation, ever advancing, ever changing. We do not live in the world of the physical. Yes, we do day to day, but our work is in a different realm altogether. We agnostics and atheists chose to believe. They chose to believe that our human intelligence was the last word, the alpha and the omega. Basically, the alpha and the omega is the beginning and the end of it all. They chose to believe it. They're fixed ideas, they're old ideas, they're intelligent. No, I'm not thinking about that. No, It doesn't exist. No. Belligerent, intolerance, denial. I'm choosing not to believe. I'm choosing to believe that these people are talking nonsense. I'm choosing to stay in my addiction because it's comfortable. I'm choosing not to believe what this person is saying because it's easier. No, it's not. The 12 steps in having an awakening as a result of the steps is the easier, softer way. Such a beautiful line, that, isn't it? Our human intelligence was the last word, the alpha and the omega, the beginning and the end of it all. And I love this line, like slap us round the head, rather venomous, wasn't it? Wasn't it? Isn't it? So vain of us to think that we know better. That I know better than you? Absolutely and utterly not. What this enables us to do is to tap into what is inside you. And it goes on to talk about that later on. But where we are right now is continuing to tap into, where is your willingness to believe? Where is it? And if you do believe, great, we continue on irrespective. Because whether you're willing or you already believe, we emphatically assure you that you're on your way to have another new experience with this power. Like, if I think about it, rather vain, it was absolutely horrible to think that back then I was just like, no, you can't tell me anything I don't already know. No, just obnoxious, rude, obstinate, like it says. Horrible way of being. Thank God for you guys showing me. Thank God for my sponsor who taught me. Thank God. Because here's the thing, and I'm going to finish in this paragraph because this is a real thought-provoking one over the course of the next week. Let this one sit with you. We, i.e. the people that wrote the book, not every Tom, Dick and Harry sitting in the rooms, we who have travelled this dubious path, so we who have travelled this uncertain path, get this, beg you. They are begging you to lay aside your prejudice, even against organised religions. They are begging you right now in this moment to lay aside your prejudice, set aside every single thing you think you know, even about the organised religions, set it all aside. They're begging you. I can't emphasise that enough. It's the first time in the book that they beg you. There's another time later on. But they are begging you because they are so convinced by this solution. They have been moved by the evidence as to how powerful this is, and they want you to have it. I am talking really strongly today, I feel, because I am begging you, and I feel so strongly that I want everybody on this screen to have this. But the only person that's stopping you is you. You're choosing not to. I can change my mind in any given moment of the day. I can choose to be agnostic. I can choose to drop into the awareness of the presence that is inside me. I can choose my mood. I can choose my attitude. The only person that stopped me from getting this was me, because I chose to know better. Bull. BS. Blah. No. I hadn't a clue what was good for me. Hadn't a clue. And nearly drove myself into an early grave. Here's the thing. We have learned that whatever the human frailties of various faiths may be, those faiths have given purpose and direction to millions. People of faith have a logical idea of what life is about. You don't have to have faith in God right now. The willingness, the honesty, the open-mindedness, the willingness to believe is what you need right now. And if you believe, great. All you have to have right now is the faith in the process. Keep on turning the pages, keep on showing up, keep on having faith in the process. People of faith have a logical idea of what life is all about. Actually, we used to have no reasonable conception whatever. These atheists and agnostics, they're admitting to the fact that they had no reasonable assumption. They had no reasonable conception, a tiniest idea of whatever God was. They're admitting to themselves that we don't know. They're admitting to themselves that our way isn't working. We used to amuse ourselves by cynically dissecting spiritual beliefs and practices when we might have observed that many spiritually minded persons of all races, look at that, not religious minded, spiritually minded persons of all races, colours and creeds, get this, were demonstrating a degree of stability, happiness, and usefulness. Look at that word, usefulness. Never thought I could be useful in my life. Happiness and usefulness, which we should have sought ourselves. So for all of you cynics, looking at all of these people on the screen, for all of you cynics listening to this, whether you think I'm a crazy horse Irish person or not, I don't care, because my life is stable. I am filled with happiness. I am so useful, and it isn't coming from me. It isn't coming from me. I beg of you to set aside, lay aside, do whatever you've got to do to go small. And it will be continued next week.